Well guys, as I mentioned earlier on, we've come down to Bridport Foundry today, and believe me, what you're going to see is an absolute treat. I'm here with John, and the family's run the business for a long time. This building I'm studying is 300 years old. It's oozing with character, and a lot of stuff that we would understand, you know, castings for engines and training like that, they're all kind of produced here. So it's a real pleasure to be with you, John. Thanks for inviting us. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah.
So, you know, I do a bit of fish. I don't do castings. What is your business, and how does it function?
Well, we're a small jobbing foundry with a big heart, a very family-orientated business. Mm-hmm. We have passion for steam and various industries. We cover as many industries as you can imagine, and I think. You have to be a foundryman to appreciate it, you know, in a way. It's hard work. We love it. It's dirty. Not many people probably like that, but we love it. And I think...
I'm getting the feel. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Well, you know, I run a family business, so, you know, I understand the issues and the problems. And so, what metals are you working in?
We cover non-ferrous and ferrous, which is your non-ferrous is going to be aluminium and your bronzes. Mm-hmm. And the ferrous side is the irons. Various alloys of irons, SG, phosphorus irons, mm-hmm. chrome-based materials, SG iron. We do chrome, which obviously we can run into with the fire bars for the steam side, railways, predominantly for fire bars and stuff. So, and the non-ferrous, aluminiums, coppers, phosphor bronze, G4s, all again for railways and various other industries.
Okay. So, you've just rolled off a list of ingredients that you know mean nothing to me, but I know the names. Where do you go back? How do you get this stuff? And what's it come in? Does it come by the lorry? Does it come in from abroad? Is it manufactured in the UK? And does it come in blocks or something?
Yeah, it comes in the ferrous side. It comes in as pig iron. We have two grades. There's an SG, which is low manganese. And there's a hematite grade for grey iron, mm-hmm. Which then we add different alloys to make different grades. So with the grey iron grades would be from a 150 to a 300, and that would denote the amount of carbon and silicon. The different grades higher and lower. So the softer the grade, the more carbon. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the higher the grade 300 is quite tough. You'd have cylinder blocks. And such things like that would have been 250, 300. All the alloys, unfortunately, come from Russia and Ukraine.
That sounds difficult.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. The prices have rocketed. You know, it's not been very easy, but it's still available, but at a cost, obviously. But it's not made it very easy at all.
So. You mentioned cylinder blocks there, and that's that's one of the biggest items there is on the steam traction engine. Yeah. Lots of NTEP members will be, you know, thinking how the foundry relates to their toys. Both big and small. I noticed you've got there's a miniature business.
Stuart Models. Yeah, we've had that for 10, 15 years. We manufacture 90% of what we sell. And we export all over the world, most countries, China, America, you know, the list is endless, you know, so it's a thoroughbred of a company. It's sort of started in 1890 up in Henley and Thames, and stayed in this country, and hopefully, you know, we've pushed it on new models with the versatility of our industry, our foundry and everything else. We produce all the castings in-house, so obviously We have good quality control and not too many bobbins.
Well, that sounds like an ideal business to me.
I know.
But I was interested, because miniatures are part of the movement, and obviously I'm part of our membership. So I'm just really interested to bring in and note that in 1890 that we were making model engines, or small engines. So I think people today think that miniatures are their toys of today, but in actual fact they were probably quite an important part of history.
I think you're probably right. It's difficult to see that. We have some of they made boats out of mahogany and they had steam engines in, which they made too. But a lot of people say, we used to see them on the parks when they had lakes and things, and then the steamboats and things, and they were sold. We got an original one here. It was sold in Hamleys in 1920s. So some of the toy shops, the big toy shops, were selling the product with the sort of miniature scale traction engines. We own Plastos as well, and this company sort of pioneered the miniature side. But commercially, it started in the 60s. We still have the original 4.5-inch barrel they built. And we bought it sort of middle 90s, late 90s, and took it on, been producing engines for the last several years.
So how long have you been working here?
I'd like to say 300 years, but I say that, but I'm not bearing up too well. It's been a family business. My brother was with me up to a few years ago, but decided it wasn't for him, so we bought it 5 years ago. So now it's run by my family.
Right. Okay. But you've been in the business for quite some generations.
35 years.
Yeah. Okay. So you know your pig iron from your own.
I hope so. Amnesia sets in like that. I think it's good that we're still going, and it's very busy. And the changes over the decades have been noticed with melting procedures. I started off when I was a youngster, with cupulars. Probably some of you guys will probably know old traditional of melting coke, iron, and limestone. Very efficient, not very economically friendly either, environmentally friendly. Sorry. But requires a lot of labour. It's sort of transgressed really to oil-fired crucibles. Again, sort of fossil fuels, pollution. Not very efficient. But now we're on induction, which is modern, electric furnaces, more predictable, more stable, and everything else. So,
well, also, I mean, we're all of us being affected and influenced by the green movement and the decarbonisation. But I'll get it out in a minute. The decarbonisation of our business and industries. I mean, and it's really interesting to notice that your business is always ahead of that curve.
Yeah, I think it's a 10,000 probably longer tradition industry. Do you know what I mean? They've been making axes and axe heads and melting metal for generations and thousands of years, but the principle applies. You have to heat it up. You have to make some sort of mould. So it's just that we probably refined it. Is probably the better word.
So I'm stood in this marvellous building. It's just oozing with character, and as you can see, behind me, Naomi's going around filming, and so our members will get an idea of the taste and the smell. But I see that you probably need a fairly decent Hoover to clean this floor up.
Yeah, we're struggling for staff for that at the moment. But I think there has to be an element of sort of, let's put it, untidiness. Like we have to cover.
Well, it's real, isn't it? This is a foundry. It's not a supermarket. This is where things are actually made. Yeah. So, talk me through your process or your working week. Or I can see lots of moulds here and weights and all that you need to make stuff, but it's alien to me.
But how it works really starts from when a customer will come to me with a drawing and say, can you make this in the material? Yeah, that's fine. We have an onboard pattern maker, and the pattern maker will make the pattern. That will incur a shrinkage, potentially a shrinkage, because as you heat anything, it contracts. So a contraction is added in, plus any machining to the pattern. So once the pattern's done, it can be made in various ways. If you're on production, we have boxes moulds. And then if it's one or two offs, then we have them as loose patterns. So we still have traditional skills. We have a machine over there, which is a fully automated machine. He'll make He'll make moulds in 3 minutes. They'll blow moulds, so we can blow moulds very quickly. Up to it'll probably do several an hour easy. But that's on the faster production side. A lot of the railway stuff, we do some bars and that we can knock them out very quickly. And then we have a more traditional foundry method. Some of you members mightn't realise or remember that they used to use green sand. Well, it's sort of gone past that. It's not very stable material. We use cold box chemical sands. We have a couple of screw mixers you might be able to see, and they fill up the moulds. The moulds are set with a catalyst. Probably this time of year it's a bit susceptible to the weather, so we probably get a mould will probably anywhere between quarter of an hour and 25 minutes. They're solid, but they haven't cured, so the moulds have to stay around for a day or two to cure. They're put together, and then we pour them in the alloys which the customer requires. So,
okay. I'm just looking down here at this particular mould. What's that for?
That's one of our separate samples. It's an 18-inch. You'll see on there it's obviously advertising Bridport Foundry, which is what we're all about. And it also has customer's number on customer's address or name of their products on there. So you'll see that there's a core in the middle. This is your hole. So that'll be your actual poker pin. So when you guys are thinking about something, this makes your hole. So this will make your hole. So when this metal is poured in through these two ingates here, you'll have a top box. The metal comes in, fills this up. This is all incarcerated metal now. So you have a hub. You can see the hub there. That'll be incarcerated. When it's set, you'll end up with a hole in the middle, which is an inch and a half.
Which is completely reversed, really. We're looking at a mirror image.
This is where everybody gets
confused. Because you've yet to create it, No, absolutely, I can totally see that.
A joint seal on there. We put this on here just for like safety. Obviously, there's moulds. There's because it's cut in half through the box, as you can see. And if it leaks out anywhere, which they sometimes do, we lose the casting because it empties it from the top down. So,
and it's pretty hot stuff, isn't it? I mean, it's you don't want to get your fingers in the way of that too much, do you?
No, we've had our fair share of little tiny bits. We've never had any dramas, but we tap out on the induction. We've got 600 kilo capacity here on the iron, so we tap out some of the chromes up to 1550. And for the bars and the normal everyday grey irons, 1450. And we've got a couple of ladles, half ton, 600 kilo ladles. So we can do whatever we like, really, to be fair. But
I mean, I don't get involved too much with casting. I mean, obviously with our borough, we've had new fire bars, and when I first bought it, the flywheel was very porous on the hubs, so we had a new flywheel cast. But so that's about the extent. But there isn't a traction engine in the realm that isn't absolutely full of what your trade and skill is there?
Oh, I think looking at a bigger picture, like there was probably a foundry or a forge in probably every town, a couple of centuries ago. Certainly even our century, they just demise of them. There's probably less than 350 left. The skill's dying. It's a shame because there's the market for manufacturing. We're passionate for steam. We do what we can to help people. And I think you say the only difference now, I think, if you look at some of the older engines, when you look through there, you can see like the quality of the iron wasn't as good as we try and get today. We try and strive for perfection. It's how we live, but they were fit for purpose, and they worked, and they worked them back in the day. I don't need to tell you guys, how they work. You'll see, and it's lovely to see restorations that people have kept as much as they possibly can. So you've got some antiquity in there,
Well, you've used the word restoration, and I love the Evelyn Clyde you've got, and even better, it's got an AF registration. You've got it. So I'm a pasty cruncher by heart and by nature. Yeah. So how long have you had her?
We've had him 4 years now, coming this year. We picked him up from Reading, and he was totally restored. The boiler was good, so everything else around it has been totally finished and done. And we've been very lucky. It's a lovely engine. Really pleased with it. And I just
it's lovely. And at the moment you've she's done up in wartime colours.
Yeah.
No, you've got your own small boy in the shape of Ben Chiverton. And of course, Ben's well known to us for many years as being works a crew on the Barrel and Old Tim. So what a nice mix. You've got someone that's done a lot, and I know that he takes the engine around. I saw you at the Great Dorset Steam Fair. It was the last time we met. So the engine's an absolute credit. It's beautiful, and it's unusual as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's. I'm going to be shouted down for this, but I think there's one in there's one in the museum at still, and I think there might be another one in France apparently. It's a YLD. I think it's the only one that we know for in this country, and it's nice. I'm pleased that it's a good representation of what they made.
It's a cracking engine, and congratulations. It's been restored, with great sensitivity, and standing in here, I can absolutely see why. Okay, well, I'm stood here in what looks like to be a toy shop with all these lovely little bits and pieces gone through shop blasting, and in my hand I've got what looks like a beam for an engine, and coming from Cornwall with Harvey's making the biggest beam engine in the country, I've probably got one of the smallest ones. Am I right or not?
Yeah, you probably are, scale-wise, yeah. It's our major beam, which we sell through Stewart's. Popular again, they're all popular, but yeah, a lot of components in here would have gone with that. So yes, it's a lovely beam engine.
And I see here we've got this rather interesting casting. There's a lot of detail there.
Yeah, it wasn't a process that I broached on earlier on in the interview. We do a system, a sand system called a shell plate, shell moulding. Some of you guys might know it. We heat up plates, gas heated, and then sand's put on the top, which produces like a biscuit, to be fair, two halves. It's a really fine finish, ideal, sort of a forerunner maybe of investment casting with the quality for that you can achieve. So
there's huge detail there. You can see the names and everything ready. It's this real.
They were doing this back in the 60s and 70s, So it's not a very popular one now. There other things have taken off, but Stewart's has still stayed traditional, and it just shows you what can be achieved with and how history hasn't really changed. Progress hasn't been, but I think we're still here. It's still good.
And is there an alternative to this? I mean, surely we're always going to have castings to start with. I can't think of an alternative.
Yeah, a lot of people bang on about 3D printing and stuff, and I know I'm going to get cried down for this, but guys, if you make some patterns, for God's sake, don't make them out of 3D printing unless they're solid. But the way they laminate, they're very difficult to get out the sand. Our sand is quite tough. It does require a lot of taper, 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees, or as much as you can give. The 3D printing, there is sintered 3D printing now, and I'm sure there'll be a future for some industries maybe, but I don't think you'll ever get away from what you see here, castings,
traditional
foundry castings. Yeah,
that's lovely, Don. Let's move on and see what other joys you've got for me. So, I'm stood in front of a TARDIS or a green box. What have we got here, John?
Okay, this is our principal primary melting machine. It's an inverter. It's an inductive thermal inverter, 175 kVA. It has a changeover switch here, so we have non-ferrous and ferrous. So non-ferrous would be the 600 kilo tilting body, which is there. That's our 600 kilo body. And the non-ferrous side, which is this little pop-up here, we can do nearly 350, 300, 400, so 200 kilos, just under 200 kilos in that one with the crucibles. Again, traditional methods, all heated by electric, which is it's clean. Oil fires were bad, but it's a straightforward thing. What I'll do is I'll start this up. If I start this up on the non-ferrous side, on the ferrous side, sorry, you'll hear how noisy these aren't, as far as I'm concerned. So we'll start this button, and this is what you'll hear. So this now so now we have the inverter on. So that will be melting anything that was in that side, which is our pig irons, which we already discussed. We put silicon and carbines and all the bits in there to get your grades. So this is basically now would be melting towards a 600 kilo charge.
So your electricity bill must be a bit of a nightmare.
Sore subject, my friend. Yeah, we have been hit quite substantially and financially. So it's not very good.
No, and I suspect that just thinking from business wise, sometimes there's some costs that you just struggle to be able to pass on.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a struggle for a lot of people, not probably just my industry, lots of other industries. The government's not really favourable against manufacturing. We have to do what we can, obviously we need to trade, we need to survive, but I think I just hope there's going to be some legislation somewhere that's going to help towards some businesses and something in the future, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
So this is a really traditional industry that's been going for, as you say, hundreds of years, and this business, over 300 years. Where do you see yourself going in the future, John? Where's your direction of travel? Bahamas or more coke and pouring?
Yeah, I wouldn't swap it for the world. I mean, God almighty, I really wouldn't. I love it. I'm quite lucky. I have continuity with young staff and everything else, and I see the future good for our jobbing foundry. I'm confident. We have a good reputation. We do what we can. I like to help people and talk to people. Most of you guys probably know me. You know what I'm like. If I can, I will. And I just hope that legislation and everything else just is a bit more lenient for us, really. And any industry, I'm not just looking at mine. I think we need manufacturing in this country, like yourself with the fish industry as well. I should imagine it's as hard for you as it is for me with fuels and stuff.
Well, it's probably not quite as hot as you get sometimes, but you mentioned something that leads me on to young staff.
Yeah.
Would I see you've got young Ben here? Would it be possible to pull him away from his work for a few minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, we meet again, but normally it's on a rally field alongside old Tim with Bert and Cara. So lovely to see you. How long have you been here?
13 years this year.
13 years? Good God, you don't look old enough.
Long time, yeah. So I started here when I was 17, and John and his brother at the time had taught me all the skills and bits and pieces I need to know to do all the mould inside of it and pouring and bits and pieces, and here I am still here and doing bits that I enjoy, because obviously it's part of my hobby as well.
Yeah.
And now we've got into the steam, it's great because I can sort of relate to it a bit better than.
Yeah, that's kind of, sometimes it's quite dangerous mixing work and pleasure, isn't it? Because you can end up not doing a very good job of both.
Yeah.
What's it you got here?
So we got this is a McLaren 8-horse McLaren core for a crosshead, and we're replacing some for a customer that we do work for. This is the internal side of it. You have to think internally as well as externally on core work and moulding. So this is the internal bit. We got behind you is the mould side of it, and so that core will sit inside that and create the inside, and that creates the outside of it.
So you put all this together, do you? And
this will be all together.
Okay.
So this is the two halves of the mould.
Okay.
And obviously the pattern is on the side there.
So I hear this bit might be heading south.
Yes, dear you.
And there's a man that mixes business and pleasure, I think.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. You
chap in the middle of Cornwall, as I know very well indeed. He's playing with McLarens, and I'm not sure he should be playing with Burrells actually, but never mind. We're biased, aren't we?
We go.
Okay, so this is your kind of stock in trade. It's just the casting and the making of bits that will then go away and be machined and turned and put into use.
Yeah, this pattern only came in this morning, so we're sort of trialling it and prototyping it, because obviously we need to see if it works all right. And it come out the mould good, so that's a good sign. We got we'll fill up another one and see. But it all comes in from a pattern into here, straight into the moulding side of it, and then down on the floor to pour, and then out the door.
So it's quite a process, and what, this will take a couple of days, will it, or an average casting?
Yeah, from the pattern took a week to make for that one. That was quite a quick turnaround for us. And then you got a day to make it, a couple of days to sort of make it and pour it, and then fettle it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's all right.
So for the likes of me that just moans interminably about what things cost me, you've just talked about, a week and a couple of days, and so one piece that goes on to a piece of equipment, let's keep it at traction engines.
Yeah.
You know, you look and think, how on earth does that cost that much? But
Yeah,
when you
you
work
gotta-
out the
yeah.
time
There's
that's
a lot
involved
of
and the skill,
Yeah, there's a
I
lot
mean,
of
it's
skill
huge.
goes into it, and that we had to get that done quick. So a lot of the time, it can be longer process for pattern making. It can be weeks and weeks because of the skill that goes into it. You know, we've done cylinder blocks in the past for traction engines, and you've got to think there's 20 plus core boxes that go with that, and that was nearly 6 months' work just to make the patterns, and then you've got to make the mould, and then find out that some things don't work, and then you've got to go back and try again. And it's just how it is. It's prototyping at the end of the day, and a lot of people don't realise how much work goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, I should think casting a cylinder block must be a vast amount. What you've told me, it's a vast amount of work.
It's
But
a lot of
no
work.
wonder, you know, the costs involved. Just to go and find somebody that's got the skill to be able to deliver this
Yeah.
is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And then, well, no wonder it's a fantastic.
We're also
process.
doing work that was done, 100 years ago. So
Yeah.
we're trying to reproduce stuff that was done 100 years ago.
And that's quite nice, really, because you know, our engines are all, you know, getting 100 plus, 120
yeah,
plus now,
yeah.
and yet we're still able to come to businesses like this
Yeah.
and say, "Can you make me one of
Yeah,
these?"
yeah.
And it's still done in exactly the same way. There's rather a nice permanence about that.
Yeah, oh, it's great.
You know.
Yeah, and you can
And you
reproduce.
certainly can't virtualise this, can you?
No, exactly.
It's very real.
Yeah, yes, very real. No, it's nice that we can recreate stuff that's done like 100 years or so ago, and we get all sorts of stuff in. Not just traction and stuff. It could be automotive, cars, and all sorts of bits. Ultra rare stuff, and we can reproduce it for. You would never find it in the world, but if you've got the right stuff and the right tools, right knowledge, we can reproduce it.
And that's really valuable for producers and specialists that want something done. And here's this business in Bridport, right on the coast, south coast,
Yeah.
and there's this huge skill, and you can tap into it. And I think it's phenomenal. We should celebrate these specialist skills and businesses. And even though this company is 300 years old, it's still working in exactly the same way. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at this pattern here, Ben.
Yeah.
So what's it made of?
So this is a modern resin type pattern it's been made of, but a lot traditionally they would have been made in wood. We still get wooden patterns in now, all new stuff, all modern ply.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work that goes into pattern, because obviously you've got to remember to allow for shrinkage of the material that you're casting,
Yeah.
machining allowance
Oh gosh.
as well. So you've got to remember when you're making it, you've got to grow it bigger to allow for all the bits that you've got to
So
take
don't
off.
pick up the wrong ruler.
No, exactly.
When you're making a pattern.
Yeah.
So
'cause you go
I presume
horrible.
that aluminium shrinks at a different rate
Yeah.
to iron or bronze.
Yes.
So
they're
that'd be
different.
awful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there would be. There's different percentages.
Such a discipline to try. I can't get my head around the fact that I'm looking at something in reverse.
Yeah, you've got to think three-dimensionally and back to front at the same time.
Yeah. And then we come over to here to the mould that's going to sit in.
Yeah. So
And-
that mould is obviously that's been taken out of. That's been drawn out of the mould,
Right.
like that, and that leaves your impression.
Yeah.
And that then put that back in there to refill again.
Yeah.
And then your core will go in that we just showed it earlier on. Once the core's in and it's all ready to go, we can put it on the floor and pour it. And then obviously the void that's left will be full of metal.
Yeah.
So all the red section of it will be metal, and the black section is core. So that's a traditional sort of painting colour of patterns. And then some of it would have been yellow painted for machining areas.
Do you know what, Ben? I'm going to stick to fish.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
I'm stood here in what looks like a huge crucible that's going to be holding metal. Talk me through pouring, because that obviously is the integral part of casting.
Yeah, okay. Well, here we have a 600 kilo tilting body. It's hydraulically tipped. These are power. You'll see the power pipes that come into it. Inside there is a lining, which you can see on the top there. Around the outside of the lining is some copper coils. Well, inside that is water. So you have 200 kilowatts running through essentially water. I think the only way I can explain it really is you'd never burn a hole in a bottle if the bottle was full of water. So this is how it principally cools.
I've got it. Yeah.
So what we do next is then I have some charge sheets here. I'll show you through a 420-12 grade. It's a standard grade of SG iron. It's a 420 elongation and 12% whatever. So basically, most of the non-ferrous metals are made up of a pig iron, like I said earlier. This one here is a pig iron. So here's our 100 kilo charge. Yep. So we have a SG pig, which is the low manganese pig, 78 kilos. And we have a steel edition. Steel dilutes carbon and silicon. So your pig iron would never come in as a perfect grade. So you have to pretty much make the grades. The only way to dilute it is by adding steel. So steel will add that. Then if it takes...
So it's your own recipe?
It's a British standard recipe,
right, gotcha.
Which everybody will stick to. And it's not easy, but it's easy to work from. We have to add, like I say, alloys. There we go. Look, it's ferrosilicon. So every 100 kilos, I put 1.9 in. Recarb, because the steel obviously dropped the silicon and the carb in there. We have to add graphite. So graphite is at 0.7. It's a virgin charge. We don't add copper. We add copper to SG. To give you a better tensile. So this one would be somewhere around about 20 tonnes per square inch. We do a 703, which by adding copper increases it to nearly 70 tonne. You can see just by adding copper and alloys how you can manipulate materials. We have to add magnesium to SG, which is quite it's a ductile iron. It's classified as. So basically, a normal iron would be a flake iron, which would break under, I don't know, a couple of tonne. Once you add magnesium to grey iron, it becomes nodular. So nodular gives you your elongation, so it gives you a bit more steel, more effect, for want of a better word. And we don't want any chill in our material if we can't help it. So we have to inoculate the final pour with a high silicon grade, which takes any carbides out that's left in there. So it's a complicated thing. It's not just a case of melting out stuff. There is alloys to add.
I'm glad you used that word, because I'm with you, but only just. In my ignorance, which I hold my hands up, I thought it was just metal and metal, but clearly there's a lot of recipes that will deliver different characteristics of end product. Yeah,
exactly. They all have their own uses. The SG, you guys might have known it as meionite back in the day in the 60s. It's a sort of a meionite was like a bar they made. We started casting this in the 60s, late 60s, and it's a great grade. You guys have probably used it. Everybody knows it, and it's used in a lot of traction engines now. We use it a lot for lots of different applications on them. And I can't think of anything specifically right off the mind, as you bloody never would do, but we do a lot of bits and pieces with them. So happy days. So yeah, it's a great grade. Happy days. Yeah.
Brilliant. John, so we've talked about how you've driven the business through fuel into a greener profile. So recycling. I mean, do you get metal back to recycle, or is it not really? But I'm looking at some spent moulds there. Yeah. Is that going out in the bin, or is that recycled, or what?
No, we reclaim 90%, 10% addition of new sand, obviously to keep everything full. Once the moulds are finished, as you can see, once the heat gets in, it breaks them down. So we just finish them off in here, and we have a couple of 10-ton hoppers that displaces the broken down sand. And to be reused again. So we are recycling in a way, and there's dumping cost is negligible as well. So it is quite a self-sufficient.
But I don't suppose you put this stuff on Chesil Beach, would you? No, you might get found out. I think the colour might give you away. Well, that's really interesting. Thank you, John. On the way through your works, we've just been into the Stuart Models bit, but we started talking about the pandemic, and I think that's really interesting because the webinars for the National Traction Engine Trust came into being because we were trying to communicate with our members during the time that chaos was in the world. How did you fare during the pandemic?
We were one of the lucky ones. The products that we produce were all on the side of like leisure as well, with the Shepherd's Hut wheels and the Stuart side, and fortunate enough we managed to get through the 2 years without any problems, and tenfold the business went tenfold. we were really lucky to keep going. And I think, I do feel for a lot of people that did struggle through the pandemic. Obviously, it wasn't a good time, but we were lucky. We still exported. The business did well, and we were very grateful for that.
Yeah, well, I think in our own business, we ballooned and mushroomed out to a huge operation, because we were feeding part of the nation, and you were feeding their mental well-being by them buying stuff off you to put together. So it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good, and yet so many businesses struggle. But it's really great to hear that this business, this traditional business, probably came out stronger, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think we all learned from what we experienced, and everybody stepped up. We were lucky we didn't have any COVID cases, and everybody just stepped up. And I think people were almost grateful to be busy. I know it's a silly thing to say, but I don't think any of us that actually manufacture or work on a 5-7 day a week, whatever you do, want to sell at home. Me personally, I couldn't deal with that. No,
I think you're right. I think that the staff realised that there was a chance to engage, get on and support, and as a business owner, you were able to to match up and mirror that. So we were all winning, weren't we?
Yeah, I think so, definitely.
Okay, super. Well, John, thank you for letting us see Clyde. It's a cracking engine. It's always nice to have a bit of a look around and the smell and the tastes. She's looking in really good order.
Yeah, we totally restored them over the last 2 or 3 years. Thanks to a lot of people. We've managed to get him back together. Boiler's good, and we're really pleased with it. Dorset Steam Fair this year, first time for 12 or 13 years.
Yeah, so, I saw you there, yeah, lovely.
Great fun, really enjoyed it, soaked up it all, lovely, really pleased with him. Great engine. But I'm going to say that because it's mine. So
No, it's a cracking engine, and as I think I've mentioned before, it's AF registered, so it's, it's got a bit of Cornwall there, so it's got to be half decent, hasn't
it? Yeah, no doubt this year we'll try and come down that way to see you. We're just manifesting what we're doing this year, so I'd love to come down.
Well, I'm sure that the Cornish rallies would be privileged to have the engine here, and as will a lot of our rallies, and let's hope that this year we get a good opportunity to play with our toys.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they need using, don't they? They need making. They're cold when they're dead when they're cold. When they're warm, they're virtually alive, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think the people make it as well. There's some really great people out there, with the conjunction of everything else, and the people. It makes it, And,
you're absolutely right. I think that the rally field and the engines they're a great leveler, aren't they? It doesn't really matter how much money you've got in your pocket. It's whether you can have a beer and a chat and a talk, and it doesn't matter whether you're a fish merchant, founder, banker, or space scientist. We're all together, looking at and doing the hobbies we enjoy.
All singing from the same hymn book, like you say, and I think that's what's great about it. There's not many organisations you can go to. You always get there's always dominating people, but to be fair, all the rallies I've been to, people have been more than friendly, more than happy, more than sociable, and I think it's a great organisation, and long may it last. And with organisations like yourselves, long may it last. Keep pushing it away, because there's a lot of fanatical people out there, and.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was thinking, how can I bring the national tracks? They're interested in this one. The trust is there to kind of just keep a quiet watching brief on what's going on with regulation, and to try and make sure that we don't get swallowed up by the Clean Air Act, which we didn't. And just to, I keep saying to people, we're not the steam police at all. We're there for. It's all volunteers. All trustees are volunteers. They're not paid. Just there to try and support the industry, and I think the movement's a little bit better because of us. I mean, obviously, I declare the interest. I'm the chairman, but I think I would just encourage everybody to just think about the trust and see if it fits for you. And if you're not a member, then please come and join us if you'd like to. We'd love to see you. And if you are, thank you for your support, because if we all do a little bit, then there's a lot gets done, and there are lots of other organisations around, but I think the National Traction Engine Trust has been around since the middle 50s, and we focus on what's needed with the movement. So yeah.
Well, like I say, a lot of you guys have got engines. I mean, you've got engines, you've got a lovely barrel, haven't you? We're going to get the barrel in. I think it doesn't matter what you've got. I think we all need support, and there might come a time where we need the TNT to keep to help, for anything, any sway, anything.
Yeah, I mean, especially at this time now, which is 2023 and early, well, the latter part of winter, February, we're looking very carefully into alternative fuels, and we've got some quite interesting facts that are coming up, and there's some quite strong and positive information that's coming out. So that's something that some of our trustees have been really focused on, and they're doing a great job. So thanks for recognising that. Appreciate that very much. So John, thank you so much for showing us around the foundry. I've personally learned so much, and it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be able to see just how the components of our traction engines came into being, and the skill and the work, and I'm deeply impressed. But I have to ask you, and we've seen Clyde, and you've got this lovely trailer behind us, and there's this white bombshell. So I've got to ask you, what does the man that works in a foundry do for pleasure outside of work?
I don't know, mate. When I get the time, I love my. I have a Lamborghini Huracan, I suppose. We all work hard. It's my pleasure, really. And I train 4 times a week. I do bodybuilding, and I'm actually a church organist as well. So I'm a bit diverse, odd, weird, special. Like, call it what you like, you know what I mean? But there's life for living. It's all there to take. Work, that's my philosophy. I live to work.
Well, John, no one could describe you as being, in a groove. There's loads of grooves to your life, and really it's the diversity of what we know and understand through our lives that makes us who we are. So can I just, on behalf of our members who that this is designed for, and not non-members alike, can I just thank you so much for giving your time? It's been really interesting.
Yeah, no worries. It's been a pleasure. It's nice to meet everybody.
Good to see you.
I say, we're here if we can help anybody in the future, and if we can help promote Traction Engine Trust in any way, then obviously we're here to help if we can.
Yeah, and for our members listening, if you need some casting work done or some expert bits putting together, then Bridport Foundry just has to be the place to come.